Have you ever wondered why we work so hard and yet seem to be moving further away from a dignified and stable life? Recent reports from the International Monetary Fund and the United Nations paint a troubling picture. While global wealth keeps expanding, stable and formal jobs are becoming increasingly scarce. This contradiction exposes an uncomfortable truth. Economic growth does not automatically translate into shared prosperity. In today's video, we will analyze how the decline in jobs strengthens wealth concentration and deepens social inequality. But we will also see that there are concrete solutions capable of changing this outlook and restoring balance to the economic game. The transformation of the labor market is not a passing phenomenon, nor can it be explained solely by technological progress. Indeed, automation and artificial intelligence are replacing human functions at a rapid pace, but political and corporate decisions also play a decisive role. Entire industries have shifted to countries with lower costs, quality jobs have been replaced by temporary work, and the so-called gig economy has become the new normal. What could have been seen as modernization has in fact increased precariousness, leaving millions of workers without security, rights, or long-term prospects. This loss of stability directly fuels a sense of powerlessness, as many realize that even with hard work, they cannot escape a system that increasingly benefits only a few. In this process, capital gains disproportionate power. The fewer people needed to produce, the more wealth accumulates in the hands of those who control technology, assets, and production. Data from the World Bank and the IMF confirm that the gap between the richest and the rest of the population has reached historic levels. During the pandemic, for example, billionaires increased their fortunes by billions of dollars, while millions of families lost their jobs. This contrast is not only unfair, it reveals a pattern of concentration that undermines the foundations of any balanced society. Work, which historically was the ladder for social mobility, ceases to fulfill that role, paving the way for deeper exclusion. The consequences appear in daily life in clear and painful ways. Overloaded public services, wages that fail to keep up with inflation, uncertainty about the future, and rising social tensions. Studies show that more unequal societies not only suffer more from violence, but also experience lower levels of institutional trust and social mobility. It is like living in a rigged game, where opportunities are increasingly restricted to an elite. Just compare countries that implemented strong redistributive policies with those that allowed income concentration to grow unchecked. While some can offer education, healthcare, and quality of life to the majority, others fall into cycles of instability and collective frustration. The inevitable question is, how long can a democracy survive in an environment of such extreme inequality? History has already shown us that this kind of disparity erodes political and social stability. Data from the UN and various research institutes highlight a strong correlation between inequality and democratic fragility. When wealth and power are restricted to a few, political institutions are captured by economic elites, reducing real representation. Examples abound. From Latin America to the Arab Spring, we have seen how economic frustration and lack of prospects can ignite protests, institutional crises, and social upheaval. This issue goes beyond economics. It is a direct threat to social cohesion. Inequality not only generates injustice, but also weakens systems that are supposed to guarantee balance and inclusion. Faced with this scenario, it is urgent to discuss solutions. There are proposals already tested and debated internationally that offer real paths forward. Universal basic income, for example, was tried in countries like Finland and Canada, showing positive results in well-being and social security. Progressive taxation on great fortunes is another alternative defended by renowned economists such as Thomas Piketty to redistribute resources more fairly. In addition, investing in education and training is essential to prepare workers for the demands of the new market. Countries that have implemented robust public policies, such as income transfer programs in Brazil, have also shown that it is possible to reduce inequality and expand opportunities. And we cannot forget investments in sustainable infrastructure and green innovation, which not only generate jobs but also contribute to social and environmental balance. These measures are not distant utopias. They are political decisions that have already proven viable and impactful in different contexts. What is at stake is not just the economy, but the very future of society. If we continue to accept the current logic, we will see concentration of power rise to unsustainable levels. But if we choose to implement intelligent and collective policies, we can shape an economy that works for the many, not just for the few. The challenge is great, but history proves that structural changes are possible when there is political will and social pressure. At this point, we also need to reflect on the role of major global corporations. Multinationals, in their quest to cut costs and maximize profits, relocate factories, weaken labor contracts, and exploit tax loopholes to avoid contributions that could fund social policies. Tech giants and retail behemoths achieve record profits, yet often provide unstable and poorly paid jobs. This reinforces the perception that while ordinary individuals compete with machines and algorithms, corporations accumulate power on a global scale, becoming political actors as influential as nation-states. The technological dimension also deserves special attention. Artificial intelligence is no longer just a support tool. It has become a driving force of profound labor market transformations. Algorithmic systems already replace human functions in areas such as customer service, transport, data analysis, and even creative industries. The core issue is not the technology itself, but how productivity gains are distributed. Without redistributive policies, those gains concentrate in the hands of shareholders and executives, while workers lose relevance. If machines are already working for us, the inevitable question arises: who is truly benefiting from this work? Another crucial point is the weight of education and retraining. Countries that invest in continuous training are able to prepare their citizens to adapt to new sectors and reduce social exclusion. Data from the OECD shows that returns on education are high, both in income and in social stability. Yet the reality for millions of adults is different. Few can afford or find time to retrain amid instability. This demonstrates that without a strong state presence and inclusive education policies, inequality will only deepen further. It is also worth remembering historical experiences of redistribution that proved effective. The New Deal in the United States, the welfare states created in Europe after World War II, and income transfer programs in Latin America are concrete examples that redistributive policies work. These measures not only reduced inequality, but also strengthened social cohesion and reinforced democracy. When governments choose inclusion, the results go far beyond economics. They shape fairer, more resilient societies. Finally, we must look ahead to the contested future. We can either continue toward a capitalism that is increasingly concentrated, exclusionary, and unstable, or reinvent it through solidarity, social innovation, and wealth redistribution. The outcome is not predetermined. It depends on the choices made today, both by political leaders and by ordinary citizens. If the economy has been shaped to benefit the few, why couldn't it be shaped to benefit the many? That is the reflection that must resonate beyond this video. But there is one often overlooked dimension: the impact of job loss on mental health. Job insecurity and the constant fear of losing income psychologically affect millions. Stress, anxiety, and depression are increasingly common in societies marked by precarious work. Studies from the World Health Organization show that economic instability is directly linked to rising mental disorders. For viewers, this means inequality does not only erode financial stability, but also emotional balance, compromising family life, social bonds, and even future productivity. Inequality must also be understood in its geopolitical dimension. We are not just talking about income concentration within countries, but also between them. Core economies accumulate wealth and technology, while developing nations struggle with unstable jobs and dependence on supply chains controlled by global powers. UN reports warn that this global disparity functions as a new form of colonial dependency, where resources flow from south to north, while opportunities for development remain restricted. This means job reduction affects not only individuals, but the sovereignty of entire nations. Another aspect to consider is the future of hybrid and digital work. The pandemic accelerated the spread of remote work, digital platforms, and the app-based economy. This transformation brought benefits, such as flexibility and new income opportunities, but also heightened insecurity and made protecting labor rights more difficult. In some countries, modern legislation already recognizes app drivers and delivery workers as formal employees, guaranteeing minimum benefits. The question remains, will this model evolve into a balanced solution, or simply another form of precarious work disguised as innovation? Amid this scenario, social movements and grassroots resistance continue to play a vital role. Strikes in strategic sectors such as logistics, technology, and transportation show that workers still retain leverage. Unions and grassroots organizations fight against wealth concentration and demand new rights for the digital age. These collective efforts remind us that even in the face of automation and economic concentration, civil society can influence governments and corporations. For viewers, the message is clear. Change does not happen on its own. It requires participation and mobilization. At the same time, alternatives are also emerging from social innovation and inclusive entrepreneurship. Digital cooperatives, community banks, and social impact startups show that it is possible to create more horizontal economic models, capable of generating jobs and distributing wealth more fairly. Though still small, these initiatives provide clues on how societies can reinvent their economies by combining innovation with social justice. If public policies support these initiatives, their transformative potential could be far greater than we imagine. The decline in jobs is not just an economic phenomenon, it is a profound risk to social cohesion and democracy. Rising inequality is not inevitable. It is the result of choices that can be corrected. It is up to us to demand fairer policies, hold economic elites accountable, and reflect on how we want to shape the future. Share this video, leave your opinion in the comments, and join the discussion. Because, in the end, transformation depends on all of us.